Izna is formerly a 7-member girl group under Wake One Entertainment. They made their debut in November 2024 after being selected during a survival show earlier that year called Island 2, a sequel to the show that made Enhypen in 2020. The show promised a strong marketing and branding strategy after heavily emphasizing the collaboration of Wake One, Mnet's in-house agency responsible for their survival show groups IZ*ONE, Kepler, and Zero Base One, and the Black Label, a sub-label of K-pop juggernaut YG Entertainment led by its main producer Teddy, the man responsible for Blackpink. The show spent a great deal of time highlighting Teddy's involvement and even got him to work on several missions for the contestants to complete. Firstly, he was in charge of the Signal song. Secondly, he was in charge of the finale performances. As Teddy's representatives on the show were fellow The Black Label producers Vivian and 24, as well as Big Bang's Taeyong. Since widespread manipulation was uncovered in Mnet's original survival show series Produce 101, the channel has become less than subtle with regards to how they use their editing to influence their audience's votes, and Island 2 was no exception. From very early on, Jiyoon was framed in a very negative light and received near constant criticism from contestants and mentors alike. However, she unexpectedly endeared herself to most audiences with her raw and unfiltered emotion, quickly building a strong fan base among the viewers, especially in Korea. It didn't hurt that the contestant she was framed against was incredibly unpopular among the domestic viewers for reasons beyond her own control. This combined to give Jiyoon a strong storyline that ensured her presence was felt in near every episode and, along with her own talent and charm, landed her in 3rd place in the finale and secured her a spot in the final lineup that would become Izna. But Jiyoon was faced with a lot of hurdles along the way. When she was first introduced, it was made clear that she was the vocalist frontrunner of the show, usually a very precarious spot to be in. Despite some difficulty with her audition song, she managed to land a spot in the upper half of the contestant pool and was selected by fellow contestant Jungin as the main vocal of the Signal song. Many factors were undoubtedly at play there, but most prominently were surely her position as the strongest vocalist on the show, her vocal similarity to Blackpink's Rosie, who sang the demo for the contestants, and her friendship with Jungin. Despite these obvious front-running traits, the judges weren't impressed with her in the main vocal spot and suggested Jungin, who had given herself the center position, take that role instead, as they also felt she was underwhelming in her own role. After much deliberation, Jungin made the decision to demote Jiyoon from main vocal to part 11 out of 12 possible, despite Jiyoon's attempts to prove her worth at multiple other positions in the song. All this culminated in Jiyoon needing a moment to come to terms with her reduced role, which she fully embraced by the time the actual stage came around. Despite being one of the highest ranked trainees in evaluation score by the judges, Jiyoon was eliminated by her fellow upper ranks alongside contestants Fuko and Gyuri, both of whom had been sick leading up to and during the stage, and the 3 of them went down to the bottom half of contestants together. But not before Jiyoon made it clear she didn't want sympathy from contestants she had considered close friends before realizing none of them voted for her to stay. And this was the beginning of Jiyoon's villain era. I know what you're thinking. Is she actually going to recap the entire show when we could just watch the video series she did recapping the show in real time as it aired? Link in the description. And I have some good news. No, but also yes. I will recap the parts of the show relevant to the video, which is most of Jiyoon's storyline and unfortunately most of the show. It will become clear why in only a moment. After being banished to the ground, the show's name for the lower half of contestants, the heat is on for Jiyoon, Fuko, and Gyuri to prove themselves worthy of their original spots in Island, the upper half of contestants. Never mind the fact that Fuko and Gyuri were 2 of only 6 contestants to get 5 out of 5 votes in the auditions, and Jiyoon was 1 of 5 to get 4 votes. And being real, she deserved the 5 out of 5 more than some contestants who actually did get it. Both sides split into 2 teams of 6, with the winning ground team switching places with the losing Island team. After pairing up for a duo session, Fuko and Jiyoon are forced to be on separate teams because they paired up. When given the choice between Red Velvet's Bad Boy and Twice as Like Ua, it was clear that with Jiyoon's cuteness aversion, she would want to do Bad Boy. However, so did Fuko, and the pair struggled for a while, mostly Fuko, to decide if they should go with the obvious or not. Eventually, Jiyoon made the decision to sacrifice her comfort for Fuko and chose Like Ua for herself and Bad Boy for Fuko. Although she was paired back up with Gyuri in that team, the original ground contestants immediately placed the weight of both the leader and main vocal role onto Jiyoon, who was already fairly sensitive from her feelings of betrayal from her fellow Islanders. This, along with her struggle to perform Like Ua in the way the judges intended, led to her breaking down in the middle of the yard with only Gyuri to lean on. Bad Boy won the challenge and Jiyoon stayed in ground for one more round. During the skill test, she finally got her moment to shine as she got to be in the vocal unit, performing Taeyong's Eyes Nose Lips, an R&B ballad uniquely suited to Jiyoon's voice and biggest strength. She, alongside Minseo, faced off against Fuko and Jungin representing the Island unit. A shady moment occurred as Jiyoon seemingly only greeted Fuko as the two units met on stage for their interim evaluation. Jiyoon managed to lead the vocal unit to victory and secured herself a spot in Island once more. And for some reason, the judges decided to act like she had been hiding her actual vocal skill and said stuff along the lines of, "No wonder you acted like that. This was your real skill all along," as if they didn't get to hear her vocals in the audition and signal song. Anyways, another shady moment occurs as the show frames Jiyoon not hearing Jungin over the loud sounds of various contestants talking and crying as if she was intentionally ignoring her. Prior to the first fan vote elimination, the contestants were given a new song produced by Vivian, "I Will Always Love You." The contestants chose their position by judge-evaluated rank, which landed Jiyoon near the bottom. As the top-ranked trainees filled out the smaller roles one by one, Jiyoon was left with a choice of main vocal or center, and she chose the center in Team A, notably the same team as Jungin. Remember this, rather than the main vocal in B. However, Fuko had won the benefit of choosing any position, whether it was filled or not, as her lyrics had been selected for the final version of the song. Fuko chose Jiyoon's center position, kicking her to the only remaining spot, Team B's main vocal. We may be thinking, were they not friends? Why would Fuko choose to kick Jiyoon from the role instead of taking the open and strong role, or even kicking main vocal A to main vocal B? And I don't have all the answers to that, but I would think it has more to do with Fuko wanting to secure a spot in the finale for both of them, as she knew Jiyoon could easily win in the main vocal position, but might find it harder to fulfill the center position. Either way, both of them made it into the second half through their performance and did not need to be saved by the vote. As they enter the second half, they are divided into 3 teams of 4, with Jiyoon landing in 21's I Am the Best. She was assigned the leader of the team, giving her a chance at redemption from the train wreck that was Like Ua. Jiyoon stepped up and her blunt way of speaking was on full display. When a teammate made digs at another teammate, Jiyoon was the only one to speak up, according to the show's edit, and even took it a step further by directly contradicting that person's words and helping the other improve in time for the stage performance. Despite initially being framed as a villain, the edit had now come full circle as the episodes were now airing on only a slight delay, unlike the first half, which had been filmed about 6 months prior to airing. The strong viewer response to Jiyoon had the show changing course, and she was on a redemption arc. The live audience response matched, and Jiyoon was in the top 3 among the live vote, highest ranked in her team. Next mission, she was assigned the vocal team again alongside Jungin, and the two were forced to confront their frosty dynamic. After Jungin chose to practice on her own, Jiyoon took the initiative to make amends and explained her side of the story, how she felt betrayed by Jungin's actions in the very first mission, especially because she had considered Jungin to be the contestant she was the closest to prior to being kicked from Island. They made up and managed to deliver a fine performance together of Beyoncé's If I Were a Boy. The clock keeps ticking, and after the second fan-voted elimination, Jiyoon continued to prove her appeal among viewers as she ranked in 3rd place overall in votes by a close margin, with Jimin and Jungin in 1st and 2nd respectively. For the finale, Jiyoon was placed in Drip as the main vocalist. She struggled to keep up with the pace of the other girls when it came to learning the choreo, and as she didn't want to hold them back, she attempted to isolate herself and left practice to cry in the laundry room. Jimin, as the team's leader, went to comfort her and got Jiyoon to share her concerns about holding the team back. The team then put an effort to help Jiyoon keep up, and they pulled off a solid performance in the finale. As mentioned, Jiyoon would go on to rank 3rd overall, securing herself a spot in the final lineup. The first official activity as a pre-debut group was Jiyoon's birthday livestream, where she was joined by Coco and Sarang. Many fans found the trio to be a strange mix of members, as throughout the show, Jiyoon's relationship with Jimin and Jungin had been much more prominent. Although there were some moments near the end that showed the friendship spark between Jiyoon and Coco, Sarang in particular seemed out of left field, as she had only ever once performed with Jiyoon, and that was all the way back in the Signal song. Although there were more chances for them to interact during the behind-the-scenes content, the material on the show was fraught. Because of the seemingly random pairing, most fans assumed it had something to do with the other members changing their hair colors. However, a month later, for both Jungin's birthday live and their KCON Germany performances, none of the members had changed their hair. It's especially strange to me, as for Jungin's birthday live, she was joined by Jimin and Sebi, when it had been established on the show that Jungin and Sebi had trained with Sarang for years and were quite close. My personal theory is Wakwon wanted them to have a rotational thing going in a way where the members were friendly, but not necessarily besties for fandom perception purposes. It's important for a group with Izna's dynamic from the survival show to not show cracks in closeness. Either way, Izna had their first performances as a group during KCON Germany at the end of August 2024 and presented I Will Always Love You, Drip, and Fake It from the show, as well as a cover of Blackpink's Lovesick Girls, which had been performed on the show. This presentation was not necessarily a good indication for the direction of the group going forward. They released their debut trailer on the 3rd of November 2024, which garnered a lot of interest. Contrary to their KCON songs, the trailer promised an interesting and unexpected concept. Some described it as dark fantasy, others as magical realism, scenes of what I could describe as magical analog overlaid on a heavily synth-based track reminiscent of, in all honesty, Luna. The trailer blended butterfly imagery with what I can only describe as surrealistic elements and managed to capture people's intrigue, whether they tuned into the show or not. The members were styled in an elegant take on streetwear, very fitting for their age range, visuals, and current pop cultural climate. Most were excited to see how this trailer would be realized in their debut mini-album, to much disappointment. As teasers started rolling out, fans tried to connect the concept to what had been shown in the debut trailer. As you would expect, the debut trailer is trying to tell you what to expect from the group and what the group's overarching concept would be. Given the vibe of the trailer, I would expect something along the lines of Luna's Butterfly, I Chillin's La Luna, or even Billy's Japanese debut Domino Butterfly Effect. Something ethereal and very synth-based with some slight retro elements so they could keep expanding on the visual elements from the trailer. Instead, N/A, their debut mini-album, fell into the trap of drum and bass, empty chorus, slight hip-hop twinge, and 3 out of 5 songs were group remakes of I Will Always Love You, Fake It, and Drip from the show. Within the disappointment were many people who had expected them to go this route, as Teddy, despite his successes in the industry, has never been known for his versatility as a producer. A lot of parallels were drawn between Izna and Teddy's own in-house group Meow, which had debuted earlier that year to similar complaints of lack of versatility and sound and concept. However, during the entire promotional rollout of the album, Jiyoon had been given a very prominent role in the group. Not just the main vocal, it was clear the company also considered her a visual center given her consistent placement in the center alongside Jimin. She was also tasked with the opening or final line of 4 out of 5 songs on the mini-album, showcasing the creative team's reliance on her unique voice in creating Izna's auditory identity. Despite Izna's conflicting or even lack of vision at debut, it was clear the companies involved knew Jiyoon was at the center of it. And then Jiyoon goes on hiatus. Going on hiatus for health on its own isn't concerning, but with how it was announced, many fans felt apprehension. K-pop companies are no strangers to a health hiatus leading to leaving the group, and there are many cases where those idols even re-debut in some capacity. Weekly's Jiyoon and Cherry Bullet's Mita come to mind. Both went on hiatus for their health before leaving the group. In the case of Jiyoon, she has later confirmed that being in the industry negatively affected her mental health and made her unable to move forward, and she's now pursuing an independent solo career. As for Mita, she re-debuted as Pixie's Ella before eventually going on another health hiatus and leaving the industry. A factor I fear most people don't acknowledge in determining how likely a member is to return post-hiatus is how transparent the company is about the reasons for it. The most commonly cited examples are ITZY's Leah, Twice's Jonghyun and Mina, and Luna's Haseul. All of them went on hiatus, some multiple times, for anxiety. Their companies were transparent about as much, and all of them even participated in comebacks during their hiatuses to varying degrees. And therein lies the difference, in my opinion. A certain level of transparency is needed along with a certain level of participation. Comebacks usually take a while to prepare, and recordings can be done months in advance. Their hiatuses came after preparations were already underway. Izna's Jiyoon, on the other hand, had her hiatus suddenly announced when Izna had no real activities to anticipate. Yes, they had a few performances coming up, but usually in those cases an absence would be announced on a case-by-case basis. Instead of a hiatus, it would be an absence. And that's the part veteran fans feared. If it's been 3 months since your debut and traditional debut promotions have passed with only a sparse few performances on the horizon, your company would release a short statement announcing you will be sitting out upcoming performances for health reasons. Instead, Wakeone announced Yoon would be going on hiatus for her health for the foreseeable future, despite a comeback release not really being on the horizon. The worst part to me is they wasted very little time replacing the backtrack for one without her vocals and adjusting the choreo and general distribution to replace her. Particularly, fans noted that it wasn't just that the members were covering her lines, their own lines were switched around, even in the backtrack, making it feel more like a permanent solution than a temporary one. There have been cases where after a sudden hiatus from performances, groups just let the backtrack handle that member's lines and don't change formations unless choreos require interaction. Jiyoon's hiatus was announced on February 19th, and almost a month later, on March 17th, Izna's first comeback was announced with her first digital single, Sign. Conflicted feelings arose as fans were excited for new music, but sad it would be without Jiyoon, while others saw the digital single as a reason to believe the company didn't want to release a mini album until Jiyoon came back. No matter what, Izna began their comeback promotions as Six with sparsely a mention of Jiyoon, another red flag. Someone who had been so central to their identity upon debut was now almost an afterthought. It's not uncommon for groups to avoid mentioning a member who's on hiatus for fear of breaching their privacy, but I think it is quite impressive that they didn't mention her in their speech for their first music show win. Don't get me wrong, they had mentioned her in articles early in the comeback promotions, but this was a pretty huge moment for them as a group, and Naver Plus got a shout out, but not their own member. Compare that to Luna's first win, where they made sure to mention Hasso fairly extensively. It puts things into perspective. With the release of Sign, Izna seemingly did a full 180 on their concept. Where their debut was a confident declaration of how cool and self-confident they were, Sign was sung from the perspective of a love-struck girl vying for the reciprocation of her feelings. Gone was the cool attitude from their debut, replaced by bashful young love, more at home with Eyelid than Izna. This theme was continued in their next comeback, Beep, on June 9th. The single received a limited physical release and, again, reinforced fans' suspicion that Wake One was choosing singles over a mini-album due to Jiyoon's absence. Both teaser eras suffered from a lack of a central figure, not because of the even number of members, but because the composition itself failed to draw the eye. Now, the center position was pretty firmly framed around Jimin and Sarang, who had also featured prominently in the center with Jiyoon, but the composition created a lot of negative space, highlighting that someone was missing, whether intentionally or not. Without Jiyoon, their visual identity was weaker, and their sound and concept lost its direction. Their identity wasn't too strong to begin with, and many fans have complained about how simple their teasers are and how outdated in a way Izna sounded, but this concept shift coinciding with Jiyoon's hiatus shifted them even further away from their debut trailer vibe. If anyone had put forth a prediction on November 4th that Izna would release songs with sweet lyrics about one-sided love with high-pitched vocals, they probably would have been mocked and run off the internet. And yet, that is where Izna stand today. Unlike Sign era, more effort was put into reminding viewers of Jiyoon, with her name appearing in the music video for Beep being the prime example. Although just the bare minimum of acknowledgement, fans found hope in it that Jiyoon would be coming back soon. It is disingenuous to claim one member could lead to such a stark difference in the group, but at the same time, Jiyoon's visuals and vocals became so integral to who Izna are as a group that it's not shocking her absence would lead to such an intense shift. It was announced on August 19th, 2025, exactly 6 months after her initial hiatus announcement, that Jiyoon would be leaving Izna due to her health issues. Hearts around the world dropped, and many bitterly commented about how they could see it coming from as early as Island 2. It seems fair to mention now that during the initial airing, large swaths of the fanbase had convinced themselves that Jiyoon wanted to be a soloist and would never suit a group and should just be a soloist. Others believed her mentality was too weak to be an idol, but despite all of that, Jiyoon seemed really happy to make it into Izna. She made it a point to share her excitement with fans for her future activities, and throughout Izna's content, her bright personality was revealed consistently in her interactions with the members and fans. It didn't at all seem like Jiyoon was weighed down neither by idol life nor by being in a group. In fact, days before her hiatus announcement, she had shared her want to continue being in the group in an interview with Teen Vogue. Her hope for 2025 was winning Rookie of the Year with Izna. With all that in mind, is it fair to claim Izna is directionless without Jiyoon? I would say the answer isn't yes or no. It's clear they do have some kind of direction as a 6-membered group that is very different to their direction as 7, and despite their commercial success with that direction, I think it's also fair to say that it isn't good. Fans are supporting the releases because they want to support the group, but they're also sincerely hoping Izna abandons this path, particularly hoping they'll go for more of the atmospheric and alluring vibe from their debut trailer. Losing a core member both in group position and popularity is not an easy thing to recover from. Whatever they release next will have to be very reflective of their path going forward, and I don't think this love-struck concept will inspire confidence among their fans. If I could give Wake one piece of advice before they keep going, it's to really step back and try to understand the group they have now. What are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses? How did these members work together in a way where every strength is highlighted and every weakness doesn't stand out? You've now lost a main vocalist, someone very central to the sound you started out with, and frankly, the vocals in Sign and Beep were nothing special to make up for it. How do you move forward in a way where Jiyoon's absence isn't a cloud hanging over the group at every turn? Me, personally, I would say stop looking towards trends to find their sound. Let's bring back the butterfly imagery, maybe take it a step further and make their concept about the butterfly effect. You could even give an homage to Jiyoon by having the members watch a butterfly fly away, either in a teaser or their music video. As for the sound, it's not that the members aren't suited to this cutesy teenage love concept, but rather it doesn't feel true to them. I think they could rip out a page from the dark but elegant concept, as they all did well in that style during the show. Although aespa's drama comes first to mind in recent years, I would look more towards Lovelyz's Obliviate, GWSN's I Can't Breathe, or even April's La La Li La La. This style is less reliant on big vocal moments, instead it uses the vocals to create an atmosphere. That doesn't mean there aren't big vocal moments, but as with I Can't Breathe, they're not these huge high notes, but rather just sustained notes. With Pixie, Purple Kiss, Pink Fantasy, and Dreamcatcher being down for the count, this niche in K-pop is almost completely missing. It would be a good way to stand out and appease both their debut and current fan bases. Some people would be alienated, yes, but I think this is the key for Izna specifically to stand out and come into their own. Hell, both times I've tried to create a concept for this group, it's come down to the same few building blocks of dark and atmospheric songs and witch-inspired concepts. They just announced a comeback for September 30th, and I can't help but think, isn't it a bit too soon? Has there really been enough time to consider who they are as a group moving forward? It's one thing to release singles as 6 members while 1 member is on hiatus, but with how prepared they seem to be for Jiyoon's return after Beep, it feels weird that they would have reports of a comeback roughly 10 days after member departure, and for that comeback to be a month and a half later. And they just announced their light stick and light band, which have this bow design, so it seems they're going to be sticking with this love struck concept for a while. Whether or not Izna is now directionless, it doesn't mean they can't find that direction. They now have an opportunity to hit the reset button. They're still very early in their career, they haven't even hit the 1-year mark, and they could take the next couple of months to really redefine and reintroduce themselves. Losing Jiyoon doesn't have to be a permanent stain on their record. Look at NMIXX. They also lost a central member really early in their career, but they also found their niche shortly after and have been able to come into their own in a way where they feel more complete now than when they first debuted. As a Jiyoon stan since Island 2, I can't say this development doesn't hurt, and it doesn't make me overall less interested in the group, especially with their current direction. But that's to be expected. Losing your bias means the group will always have something missing, no matter how well they do to rebrand and move past it. End of the day, all I can do is wish all 7 of them the best and hope to see Jiyoon on stage once more.